Hey guys, it's Layla Kane, future educator. Uh, Today I'm going to discuss the curriculum analysis assignment for Maryland State Standards and Dr. Bridges Elementary Education 475 class. Um, I decided to specifically speak on give you information about the fourth through sixth grade standards, um, uh, standard five as well. Standard five in social studies, Maryland State Standards is about history specifically, and it says students will examine significant ideas, beliefs, and themes, organize patterns, and analyze how individuals and societies have changed over time in Maryland, the United States, and around the world. So that's Maryland State Standards, Social Studies Standards 5. Hold on. And I'm going to first speak on the similarities and differences between the fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. So starting with fourth grade, fourth graders are definitely just learning about Maryland at that time. They're learning about Maryland at that moment. Teachers are teaching about how Maryland became Maryland, so how the settlements came there, American settlements came to Maryland, and they're supposed to be describing and teaching the significance of historical events leading to the settlement of Maryland, and that includes explaining how and why the colony was established, including political and economic motives for coming to the New World, comparing the development of places and regions such as St. Mary's City, Western Maryland, Kent Island, and Annapolis. And also the discussion of slavery is supposed to come up as well, because that's a major key point to this as well, describing the establishment of slavery and how it shaped life in Maryland. Also, the Native Americans are also being taught at this moment. You're supposed to be comparing Native American societies in Maryland before and after European colonization. So just getting kids, giving these fourth graders an idea of what was going on at that time, who was in Maryland at that time, who was there first, So that's what's being taught with Standard 5, Part A for fourth graders. But just overall, fourth graders are learning about Maryland at this moment, and key events that were happening in Maryland at this time. That's what fourth graders were learning, should be learning at this moment. So, for fifth graders are analyzing the chronological and significance of key historical events during the age of European exploration, which is including describing the origin, destination, and goals of the North American explorers. They're evaluating the results of the interactions between European explorers and native people. And they're starting to talk more about settlements in its entirety at this moment in fifth grade. While teaching social studies, teachers should be discussing all 13 settlements on the East Coast, because that's where they were. They weren't anywhere else at the moment. That's what fifth graders are discussing, learning. They're describing the destination and goals of North American explorers. Uh, and they're describing the major settlements in Roanoke, at St. Augustine, and Jamestown. They're just starting to get more specific with colonies in general, and they're doing a lot of analyzing historical events in the fifth grade. And just going more in depth into society at that moment, just the beginning of American society and those settlements, those 13 settlements in the beginning. That's what's being discussed in social studies at that moment. For sixth graders, during the sixth grade, they're starting to analyze how the rise of the earliest communities led to the emergence of agricultural societies. So sixth graders are going deeper into, I'm saying deeper into depth. That's not how it goes. Going way more in depth than fifth grade. It's just steps, as it should be. That's what happens when you grow up. Just taking different steps. So sixth graders are describing characteristics and innovations of hunting and gathering societies, such as nomadic lifestyles, inventors, tools, adaptations to animal migration and vegetation cycles, and the shift from food gathering to food producing activities, as well as explaining how and why towns and cities grew from early human settlements, including the need for security and government. Fourth grade, they were talking about Maryland. Fifth grade, they started to get their feet wet with the idea of multiple settlements, not just discussing Maryland. And then in sixth grade, they're talking about, as in the entirety of colonization and what that is, what they're doing, and just getting the details of what it was like, the small minor details that they probably won't think about. You're thinking about them now. You're teaching them. That's what teachers are learning at that moment. Are teaching at that moment. As well, they're examining the emergence, growth, and decline of empires in the Americas. They're describing and tracing the development of political and social structures of the Incas, Mayans, and Aztecs. That's another part of social studies, but because I was just speaking on colonization at that moment. It's a lot of discussions of civilizations as well. In sixth grade, they learn about hierarchy and government in the sixth grade. A lot of civilization talk just outside of America. They're talking about everywhere at this moment. They're talking about Greek civilizations, South American civilizations, Africa. So big talk about civilizations in the sixth grade as well. Now to discuss formative and summative assessments when teaching social studies. To identify higher order thinking skills with students, you have to ask questions. So, Bloom's taxonomy teacher planning kit gives you a list, just gives you categories and lists of questions that you were able to ask to students. So you want them to, use their critical thinking skills. So you can ask questions like, Can you list three? Can you recall this? How did this happen? How would you describe da da da? For example, how is oh, when did the Pilgrims come to America? What was the name they came on? Where did they land? Why did they leave Europe? You know, questions like that. What hardships did they face to get them thinking, to get them thinking, uh, to get them thinking about what they've learned, to review, and that is an example of a formative assessment and a summative. You can ask both. For formative, for right after class or right at the end of the school day, where you just exit tickets, and to lead into that, uh, examples of formative assessments that you could use for social studies. I did. I looked up this. I looked up a couple of them, but I looked up and I thought this one was really good. Facts and lies. Facts and lies. So basically, I would give students. Two facts and one lie, or three facts and two lies. Things like that, just to make sure that they're on track and they know. And I could write it on a piece of paper. I could do it with the whole class. So I thought that would be a good formative assessment, and I think the kids would be really engaged with that as well, and they would have fun. Another one is called blind questions. So basically, you're just giving students the opportunity to ask any questions on what they've reviewed. I mean, or what they've been taught. Like, what do they have any questions? If so, if they don't have one, then they need to figure one out. Think of something to ask or something to think about, and I'll put it in a bowl. When they're leaving out of the classroom, you just put it in a bowl, and then I will review the questions later, just to see where they were at with the learning, with the instruction. So that was for formative. Summative assessment is just basically a test at the end of the unit, just to see where students are, and comparing it against the standard. Did they learn this? Did they reach their objectives? That's what formative and a summative assessments, that's what I would do when teaching social studies. Now on to pre-assessments. For prior knowledge, will students need to show proficiency with the concept and skills in the standard and grade? Prior knowledge students will need is just the basic concept of history, and how individuals and societies change over time. That's all they need to know, I think, with 4th, 5th, 6th grade. But eventually once they get to 5th grade, they're going to start getting more into detail. In the 6th grade, they're going to be learning about civilization and history all over the world, and not just in America. So best to answer that question. Identify common vocabulary. Vocabulary that will be used throughout, that is used throughout the standards that I read. The word analyze, describe, explain, examine, significance, colonization, and identify are used a lot throughout the standards. That's just pretty easy. You're doing a lot of examining and analyzing these three grades, and it's just gonna get even deeper once they get to 7th, once they get to 8th grade, even when they get to high school, you're going to have to explain a lot of things, especially when you get to high school. But 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, you're just getting their feet wet, um, just giving them an idea of the concepts of civilization, colonization in the Americas. So, specific resources that students could use, not students, that teachers could use to learn more information. Google for one, but some that Dr. Bridges said to us already is the Maryland Historic Society, Library of Congress, I think that each school gets different curriculum, so reading up on whatever books are given to you that you will accumulate over time, that's how you touch up and brush up on your social studies skills. Probably use some old books. I still have books from high school, from college, that I have about social studies. So, okay, on to pedagogy and representation. What teaching strategies are most effective at helping students master the content strategy? Couple strategies that I read about that I found that I thought would be effective. Creating a word wall for social studies vocabulary. It has to be specific to the unit that you're on and that you're teaching, and it could be a reference for students during lessons and instruction. So that's the first one. The second one, art history is history. Incorporating artwork into your instruction can be super beneficial to students. Having visuals that students can refer to can enhance the attraction to learning social studies and wanting to know more about social studies. Having visual references will keep me more engaged. So I would do that for my students as well. I will be doing that. And the last one I said was experimental exercises. So immersing students into historical scenarios. So they can be very, very powerful. But of course, do scenarios that are appropriate for the classroom. So nothing about slavery or the Holocaust. But just to reenact maybe things that people did during that time, during the early time of civilization. So using a water pump, or a washboard, things like that. Something that'll keep the kids engaged, and something that's tactile, something they can use their hands with, be hands-on with. So as far as scaffolding to keep proficiency, to help students reach proficiency. I'm so sorry. Pre-teaching vocab. I'm really big on vocab because I did not know a lot of words when I was younger, and I told myself when I got older I was going to learn vocabulary, and I was going to try and incorporate as much as I can to my vocabulary, into how I speak on the daily. I'm getting better at it. I think it's going to get better as I keep getting older as well. So, but scaffolding, as far as scaffolding with social studies, pre-teaching vocabulary, for beginning a new chapter or lesson, going over vocabulary can be helpful for students when reading and seeing challenging words. Providing pictures with the visuals as well can be helpful. Another one is chunk text. So help students better manage text by reading them, reading it like a couple sentences, and putting them into smaller amounts of reading. So they'll be able to retain it better if they read, if we break down each couple sentences. So that's my idea of scaffolding. So that's it actually. Oh no. What groups of people, religious perspectives, geographical region, location were underrepresented in this standard? I think that fourth, fifth, and sixth grade is when they start learning more about the entire country and the entire world. I think first and third, you're learning about being aware of yourself in social studies. I mean, in those first couple grades, you learn about yourself. You learn about your family and where you come from. You know, so fourth, fifth, and sixth grade is when you start seeing the instruction get deeper into how the world began. As far as we know, how our world began, how Western civilization began. So that's where, and learning about Aztecs and things like that, and going deeper into our history is fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. That's when the students start learning about the world in its entirety. So I don't really think that any groups or religious perspectives were. I don't know if a religion is actually being taught at that moment as well, because I don't think I didn't learn about Christianity until I got to high school. Well, I mean, probably middle school, like talking about different religions. Um, the kids have so much more to learn. Like, this is just the beginning. So I think that nothing really was left out at this moment. I mean, in those standards and what teachers are teaching in Maryland. So this is just the beginning in social studies. They have a lot more to get into, a lot more to learn. So no, I don't think that anything was underrepresented. Thank you for watching. Bye.